thank you very much for sharing, Kimberly, and everyone else here in the chat. I really hope now that some of this gives us some ideas here, because the idea that we might have about just really clicking with someone, making those connections, getting ways to go ahead and make some authentic connections right off the bat, uh, speaks to us, and that we would love to know more about how to dive into that a little bit further. So what I'm going to do here is go right back into the conversation that we have planned, the bank code, building better connections for business success. We do like to go ahead and make sure people are aware that we are aligning all of our events with the ATD National capability model. This is organizational capacity. We are impacting the organizational capability. One of these days I will type that properly. Consulting and business partnering. And here we have a description of what we're shooting for here, just knowledge of methods and criteria for sourcing, establishing, and or managing partnerships through all sorts of individuals. You know, they say vendors, clients, and again, when I say clients, I'm looking at internal and external clients, the people that we're working with, anyone that we're interacting with. So, without further ado, I'm going to talk a little bit about Cheri Tree. This is the best-selling author, professional keynote speaker, and world-renowned entrepreneur and innovator, founder and CEO of Codebreaker Technologies, with codebreakers in more than 100 countries worldwide. She is the creator of the revolutionary BANK methodology and Codebreaker's patented personality coding technology and artificial intelligence, designed to help her clients increase their influence, income, and impact in the world. She came to my attention when I was reading an Orange County Business Journal article about an Innovator of the Year, and how she's utilizing this bank code and codebreaker technologies to help people make those authentic connections. So her investment in technology, in personality science, in building authenticity is something that really I believe would resonate with all of our chapter. So without further ado, Miss Cheri Tree.
Thank you, Paul, and hello. Nice to see each of you. I'm broadcasting live from Laguna Beach, so it's very nice to spend your lunch hour with you. I'm going to share my screen, and I want to share with you something that transformed my entire journey, going from solopreneur to building a world-class company, with the honor of winning Innovator of the Year in Orange County here. So that is how I got a chance to meet Paul, and thus the invitation to come and spend my lunch hour with you today. So if you are available on video feed, I always think it's just more interactive and fun to see you versus a blank screen. So thank you for those of you that do have your videos on. I'm going to share my screen with you, and I want to walk you through a framework that I created called BANK. And you're probably familiar with every assessment model out there, from DISC to MBTI to all of them. I built BANK for a completely different application, and it had such transformation in my results that it started to grow some legs and spread far and wide. And this is my opportunity to share it with you today. So I'm going to share my screen here. And okay, yes. So Paul shared my picture. This is really my name, Cheri Tree. 6th grade was a tough year. And the company Codebreaker is award-winning as an entrepreneur. And I think that's really great to recognize some of the local companies that are doing some great things that maybe you haven't heard about, but maybe this is a great time to find out what's happening out there in the marketplace, put your ear to the ground and say, hey, is there something here for me that can benefit me and my organization? Now, specifically, I train a lot of individuals in the sales and marketing realm, although I train a lot of executive teams and at the management level, leadership levels as well. But I want to start off with kind of this cool concept. The Chali Group did a study, and they say, hey, do personality types matter in the engagement process, the sales process? And they came back and published, and they said only 18% of buyers will buy from a salesperson who does not match the buyer's personality type. So only 2 out of 10 are going to engage or say yes, versus 82% success rate when personality types are aligned. Now, through your paradigm, you can either think about this from a sales perspective of going out there and winning business, winning relationships, strategic partnerships, and so forth, or you might look at your buyer as your boss, a colleague, someone on the team, or a vendor partner or strategic relationship for your organization, perhaps the person you're hiring in the process, someone who's buying in to your messaging. So this is going to be about personality style alignment. Now, I built the BANK framework. Again, I'm going to do the application for sales because every business in the world has to have sales revenue coming in, or else they're not in business, they're a nonprofit. The BANK framework is based in the art and science of influence. And what I teach our clients is I unlock the secrets, the science, and the system that can supercharge your influence in and out of the organization, your income, which is usually a direct impact of your ability to influence, and your impact that you're making, which means inside the organization, inside your family, your community, and so forth. So I'm going to take you on kind of a journey that shares why this was created in the first place. I started off as a financial advisor after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, wanting to be an entrepreneur. And one of the things he said is, if you're going to be an entrepreneur business owner, you need to be great in sales. Well, I wasn't. He said, the ability to sell is the number one skill in business. And sales is usually an off-putting word. People don't like the word sales. People don't want to be called that they're in sales because there's some form of manipulation, association attached to it. I want to replace the word sell with influence. Again, whether you're working your way up the career ladder inside an organization, you're trying to win relationships with strategic partners in the marketplace, customer acquisition, and so forth. The ability to influence is the number one skill in business. Now, when you think of your sales channel inside the organization, whether you're running a small business, sole proprietor, or working with a large organization, the sales division is typically being trained and told that sales is a numbers game. That's why marketing has to go to work and generate all types of leads and advertising and things that are creating potential buyers to come to your business on your landing pages, your websites, your opt-ins, or your retail stores. And we're told that sales is a numbers game. And we're told that in order to get more yeses, you have to get more nos, because there's some form of a gambling risk element to the numbers game. Most people don't win the relationship right away. And for 5 years, I was brainwashed into believing that, and it only created a frustrating churn cycle. It turned me into hustle and grinding, kind of like a little bit of a workaholic, because the accumulation of no's is very defeating. It's discouraging, and it's not a good use of revenue. My philosophy was, and I flipped it when I said, what if I could go for yes and get the yes instead? So my idea was, what if there was a way to get a yes? Is there a science behind getting a yes versus just an arbitrary winging it version? And I started to do a lot of digging and studying to see if I could find the secret to getting a yes versus a no outcome. And the secret that I discovered was that sales or business is not a numbers game, it's a people game. So as soon as I shifted my focus from sales to people, for me, everything changed. Now imagine I work for your company in the sales channel, whether I'm a sales rep or sales manager. Let's pretend that I work for your company. My first 5 years without the BANK framework, I was really struggling, which means I was struggling to generate revenue for the organization, let alone my personal paycheck, which was a reflection of commission and ability to drive those revenue results. But once I installed the BANK framework and began using this with the client interactions, everything changed. My income personally skyrocketed to over $500,000, which means if you look at that as top line revenue for the organization, I 7x'd the revenue for the organization just on my own efforts. And I began training it to the sales organization, teaching them the BANK framework, how to get a yes instead of a no by aligning personality styles with the customer base. And at that point, all of the results went up. My personal income was over $1 million a year. So imagine I'm working in your organization and your company's paying me over $1 million a year, because we were generating millions of dollars in company revenues, top line revenues, as a result of understanding the customer from a buying perspective. So I want you to understand this principle, because you might say, well, I'm not even in sales, and why is this even relevant to me? But actually, aren't we all in sales? Aren't we all in influence? whether you're talking about selling products and services or consulting contracts, or whether you're selling yourself or your ideas or motivating a team, this became very relevant. Now, for me, that got me quite a bit of exposure. I started getting written up in magazines. No, I'm not the lady in the red dress. I'm the one in the black suit. My income here was 2.9 million. At this point, I'm 33 years old. And what happened, just so you know my story, this isn't like a braggadocious thing, but people, organizations started saying, can you come teach it to my sales division? Can you come speak at our conference? And I began to share the stage with some of the legends and icons in the business realm, like Tony Robbins, Kiyosaki, so forth, to share my bank methodology. Now, when Paul was reading about my bank system in the Orange County Business Journal, he said, wow, I'd like to talk to you about coming and talking to the ATD group to see if this is a framework that maybe any of them could benefit from in your respective businesses. Okay. And by the way, I'm someone who likes to interact. So in the chat box, would you please type yes if you would like to see your organization or you personally be able to drive more top line revenue, more income, and more profitability? Type yes. Okay, type yes in there. Because we've all seen companies that don't do that end up collapsing, people get laid off, or you're out of business, okay? So this little experiment kind of grew and created some wild success. We've so far administered just under 500,000 of these bank code assessments and growing. Now, the reason bank works is based in science. And I'm going to take you on a quick little science tour through history here. The science that we use in the bank framework is called personality science. And the science dates back thousands of years. I did not invent this part of it. So it originates with Hippocrates, the father of medicine, Greek philosopher who figures out that he can divide the entire human race into 4 different groups. And each group was so different one from another, he could treat them with medicine differently just based on what he called your personality temperament. This was the origin of the theory of the 4 temperaments. When you fast forward to our modern day world, there's been all of these different assessment models that have been created. Some of the more popular ones are DISC, MBTI, the color code, True Colors, the Berkman method, Strength Finders. Like there's a lot of them that are out there. And probably you're extremely familiar with many of them because you've probably taken a variety of them on your career path or your business path. I did too. My employment had me take these assessment models, and when I was working on full commissions, I was taking these assessment models. And in the beginning, I was fascinated with what I was learning about myself. Like, wow, this is really cool. But my fascination turned to frustration when I realized that none of these assessment models were impacting my bottom line. None of them were driving revenue. None of them were helping me close sales. None of them were helping me make more money. And for me, I was very frustrated financially, trying to figure out how I could get my income up and over the 6-figure mark, let alone multiple 6 or 7 figures of income. That's what I aspired to. So I took a few steps back, and sometimes we just take these assessments because we're told to or encouraged to, but I wanted to really look top down and say, I asked the question, okay, if it's been proven for thousands of years that there's 4 different types of people, I wonder if they make buying decisions differently. And I wonder if what makes one person say yes makes another person say no. Show me an assessment who can tell me not who I am, but who the buyer is in front of me. At first, like my customer, okay? And that framework didn't exist. And that's when I then decided to build B.A.N.K. Instead of basing it in psychology, like most of the assessment models out there, I built my framework based in biology, spelled BUYology. And if you're looking here at the screen, I'll hold up a copy of my book, Why They Buy. This is the book that I ended up writing. So biology was the science of buying behavior, or internally in the organization, buy-in behavior. My model could determine exactly what makes someone say yes versus no, based on an intrinsic set of invisible values. And once I was able to categorize those values in a meaningful way and organize them, I could figure out exactly how to communicate to a person to unlock a yes versus a no with no manipulation. where the intent was to create a win-win outcome. That's a sales process. Then the win-win is the customer purchases from you and they get the benefits of your products and services from your organization. If it's an internal conversation, maybe that's person hiring, maybe that's a promotion inside the organization. Maybe it's getting your boss to agree on an increase for you or a title promotion and so forth. So biology became the science of buying or buy-in behavior. And now this was really a game changer. What we ultimately teach individuals, businesses, and organizations is how to crack the personality code and take it to the bank. Okay. And that's kind of a fun play on words. Now, I want to share what is typically happening, and let's talk again to the sales organization, although it applies across the whole organization, regardless of just the sales channel. But let's talk sales because it's an easy example. When you have your salespeople in your organization going out and interacting with customers, or if you are a sole proprietor, consultant going out and doing the work with your clients, when you go talk to a matching personality type, someone like you, chances are you're going to get a yes engagement. You're going to get the buy-in, right? And that represents one of those four groups, or 25% of the possibility. What I realized was when I was out communicating and trying to engage the other three types, that was leading more to a no than a yes. And that meant that I was leaving and forfeiting 75% of the potential revenue for the organization by failing to match that personality style. Now, in traditional sales training, they say people will buy from you when they know you, like you, and trust you. Well, what I discovered was what creates the know, like, and trust factor was a match of the personality style. So again, bringing back up the study, suddenly it made sense that when you think of your buyer as that could be your boss, it could be a person you're hiring or managing in the organization, or it could be a literal sales application with a customer engagement on your product or service. Only 18% of those people will say yes to the person that's trying to engage them that doesn't match their personality style, versus 82% success rate when personality types are aligned. So my idea was, what if I could find a way that I could identify which one I was talking to in less than 90 seconds and now nanoseconds using our AI models? And then what if I knew the exact formula of how I needed to communicate to that person in a way that unlocked the yes or the agreement or the buy-in? So when I teach organizations the B.A.N.K framework, I teach them how to become 300% more effective, saving them massive amounts of marketing dollars, sales dollars, top line revenue, bottom line revenue, or organizational efficiency, and so forth. Let me explain how this works. I know that you're familiar with people and personality types. I know that you've taken all these different assessment models. So let's say, for the sake of all of us being on the same page, that these four different types of people are so different one from another, it's the equivalent of speaking a different language. Let's say that the little blue block down at the bottom speaks English. When you go talk to and want to influence the person who's also the blue match here, in this case, you speak English to someone who speaks native English, you're going to have a match. And that's your current baseline. But what about when you go talk to the red block, whether that's your customer, your boss, or an employee or team member, and they don't speak any English, they only speak French. The question is, are you going to continue to communicate and force your communication in English when they're sitting there telling you they don't speak English, they only speak French? What B.A.N.K does is it identifies which one they are, and then allows you to transform your communication as if you're speaking their language. For example, bonjour, je m'appelle Cheri, j'ai habité en France pour 3 ans quand j'étais petite, enchantée. Now, if you speak French, you're going to know what I said. You're automatically going to smile and you're going to feel a connection because I'm speaking your native language, or language that you understand. Versus if you don't understand, and you might say, that sounded really cool, I'm nodding and I'm in the mood for a croissant right now, but you didn't close me or engage me because you didn't really speak my language, or what I would say, you didn't speak my code. So in this case, I'm able to get a buy-in agreement from not just 1 out of the 4, but now 2 out of the 4, 100% more increase of influence. When you meet the third block up, let's say that person doesn't speak English or French. Let's say they speak Romanian. You might say, well, I don't speak Romanian. Well, then good luck communicating with that person and getting the best out of them. Whereas in bank, we can allow you to understand the framework of speaking Romanian. So, for example, Bună ziua, mă numesc Cheri, am fost misionară pentru biserica mea. Am locuit în România pentru un an jumate. Îmi pare bine. You have no idea what I said. It's because you don't speak Romanian. Just like when you're communicating, whether it's to a customer or a colleague, you're not speaking in their code. There's a complete loss in translation. And that's where communication breakdown happens. In this case, now you're more influential with 1 out of the 4, 2 out of the 4, 3 out of the 4. And that leaves the K. Let's say that the K is someone so different from you, polar opposite in your personality style. Let's say the K stands for Korean, opposite side of the world. You're like, my word, we're very different. We're oil and vinegar. Well, what if you had the ability to suddenly pull those two forces together by simply speaking Korean and saying, 안녕하세요, 나는 한국말 조금밖에 못해요. The person who speaks Korean is like, wow, you're speaking my language. I fully understand. I'm ready to engage. In this example of languages, I've shown you how to be 300% more influential while still staying authentically you. And this is something that I would call emotional intelligence. We hear a lot about emotional intelligence, especially in company organizations. The importance of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence has 2 parts to it. One, your ability to understand yourself and self-regulate, so knowing what your bank code is. And then number 2 is the ability to understand the other person and your ability to match them based on their perspective. So bank became, how do I know who you are and how do I match you as quickly as possible without manipulating and by authentically, genuinely wanting to connect with you through that lens. That's where this bank system was created. So let me just give you a quick little orientation to the 4 styles of bank, B.A.N.K. Obviously, BANK is an acronym. It stands for Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge. And I created a system. System is also an acronym. Save yourself time, energy, and money. Okay. So let me give you a quick little orientation. And the tendency is going to be trying to compare it to a framework that you know, like DISC or MBTI and so forth. And I have people ask me all the time, Cheri, if I go back, is BANK exactly like DISC? And I'd say, sure, you can take DISC and BANK, D-I-S-C, B-A-N-K, put them together. They're the exact same thing, only completely different. Again, one's based in psychology, one's based in biology. So I wasn't trying to measure introversion, extroversion, for example. I was trying to measure yes or no. So when it comes to someone who would be typified as a blueprint personality style, I use the color blue. This person is a little colder to approach. They're a little more formal in their personality style, a little bit more rigid and structured. So a blueprint person, what I discovered is if we were to carve open their operating system, we would discover that a blueprint person makes their buying decisions based on this set of values. And I put them on the screen here so you could take a screen cap of it. They value stability, structure, systems, planning, processes, predictability, responsibility, duty, rules, credentials, titles, and tradition. Again, very formal in their approach, very conservative in their nature. They're inside the box. If I were to ask you, rules were meant to be, and then you fill in the blank. Rules were meant to be. A lot of people shout out the word broken, but not a blueprint. Rules were meant to be followed. Rules were meant to be enforced. You are meant to be penalized if you don't meet that rule expectation. And that's how a blueprint enforces their policies and so forth. So they require a completely, totally different approach, right? Well, let's look at the action personality type. Notice I switched to the color red. This is your mover, shaker, millionaire maker. They've got their hair on fire. They're like a red stick of dynamite. They act like they just drank Red Bull for breakfast, ready to charge like a bull in a china shop. They want red carpet treatment, VIP. They believe the world revolves around them. So the action personality type is very outside the box. Well, let's carve open their operating system and look at them. The values that are driving their behavior is freedom. Like as in, don't ever tell them where to be, what to be, how much they deserve to get paid and so forth. Flexibility, spontaneity, action, massive action, opportunity. They live for it, they die for it. Attention, excitement, stimulation, competition. Winning, they play to win. Second place is the first loser for them. Having fun, life's a party. And image, from head to toe, it's all for show. So an action personality style requires a completely different engagement. Again, whether they're an employee, a peer, a boss, a colleague, a vendor partner, or a potential customer, you must interact with them differently. They have a code that they need to be communicated with. Let's shift to the nurturing. The N stands for nurturing. I use the color yellow. The nurturing are warm like sunshine, sweet like honey, and they've got a heart of gold. Well, the nurturing personality type, if we were to carve them open, you're going to see a really big ooey gooey heart. They're very relationship centric because that's what they value. They value relationships, authenticity, personal growth, significance, teamwork, involvement, community, charity, ethics, harmony, morality, and contribution. They don't care about the money and the profitability over the organization. They care about the movement and the mission and the purpose of the organization. So they're wired totally differently. You can't dangle the same carrots in front of them and have them respond. Matter of fact, what turns one on turns the other one off. This is what creates the challenge and the complexity with people. The fourth personality style in bank is the K for knowledge. And these are the people that want all of the data, the science, the numbers, the case studies behind it. I use the color green because I think Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, the little logo is green, right? Or in the movie The Matrix, the computer code that falls across the screen. Think green science, green technology, and so forth. Well, they have brilliant, beautiful minds. When we carve open their operating system, you're basically talking to a quantum computer, right? And they value learning, intelligence, logic, self-mastery, technology, research and development, science, universal truths, expertise, competence, accuracy, and the big picture. A K, you can't close a K. They have to close themselves. So this is why they can sometimes be frustrating to engage with, or why do they ask endless sets of questions, or why do they take forever to make a decision? Because they don't have enough of the data to feel like they can draw the conclusion that saying yes or moving forward makes sense. And so they will begin to stall and research and backpedal. Okay. So each one of these four constructs, B.A.N.K, became such a powerful awareness. Step two was to realize that every single person in the world was not just one of these four isolated. They're actually a combination of all four, and that's what determines their bank code. So if you think of a bank code like a PIN code on your debit card, when you take your debit card and go put it into the ATM machine, it wants you to enter a 4-digit sequence in the exact order if you want your money to come out. Well, a bank code is the exact same way. When you communicate with another human being, whether that's your boss, your colleague, your customer, they have a bank code. And if you can communicate to them in their exact sequence, a yes will come out. And that's what I discovered. So then the question was, well, how many different bank codes are there? There's 24 different codes, which meant there was roughly a 4% chance of having a great communication approach with that customer or colleague. 4.16 if you're a K. Those are not good odds. That's why in the sales process, if we're talking about just your sales and marketing channel right now, statistically going for no and getting the no, or saying that sales is a numbers game, is like playing Russian roulette. Why would you do that? What if you could slow down one pace, figure out what the bank code was of the potential buyer or customer or colleague, and then deliver the messaging of influence based on that code sequence? So when I was building the system, again, I didn't build it for you or your organization. I built it for just me. And as an experiment, I then said, okay, if this is true, and if this is possibly true, then how do I know what the bank code is of my client? How am I going to determine their bank code? And most of us are trained to ask questions and do this and that. That takes too long. Quite frankly, there's margins of error built into that. What if I could know what their bank code is and get it accurate 100% of the time? And I said, well, there's only one way to do that. And the way to do that was to ask my client, what is your bank code? I didn't know how to do that. So I said, what if I gamify it and I turned it into a fun little interaction? So I created a set of 4 cards. And if you're looking at me on the screen right now, these are the bank cards. I created a set of 4 cards and I'd literally hand them to my client and ask them to sort them in order. Now we've got companies that are doing this in the hiring process, the interview process, and so forth. getting the bank code of the person that's directly in front of you, and then following a specific set of formulas on how to communicate to that bank code sequence that unlocks the yes and avoids the no. And that's ultimately what this system was designed to do. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. I'm not done. Okay. But I would first type yes in the chat box if you're interested to learn more about this system. If there's some point of fascination where you're like, huh, this is actually kind of cool. I never thought about it this way. Maybe I'd like to learn more. Because Paul and I, together with the ATD Orange County chapter, have organized an event in April and an event in May that we're going to do following up on the next steps. How do you crack the code of someone? How do you use tools and technology to do that? The cards are one thing, and I'll be bringing them to the workshop. The second thing is we built artificial intelligence. We built AI models. Imagine pulling up someone's LinkedIn profile. I'm sure we all use LinkedIn. Our AI, you simply push a button, the AI will analyze their entire profile and generate a bank code prediction, and then guide you on exactly how to engage with that person. Okay. So this is incredibly disruptive. Again, this is what led us to Innovator of the Year. This is how we've administered hundreds of thousands of our assessment models, and have clients in over 100 different countries, was helping them determine what the bank code is of that person, whoever they are, and then how do you communicate effectively to that person to unlock the yes versus the no, right? So yes, I hope that you guys register, and I hope that you go share it with your peers. I did create a free gift for each of you, and that is the chance to go and crack your code, okay? I'm going to gift every one of you an assessment. So when we created these cards, our clients started to use these cards, but then it was like, well, what if someone's digitally not physically in the room and they're through a computer? We ended up developing technology where we could crack someone's code online, right? So we built an online assessment model where you can literally go to our website. You'll see these images of the 4 cards, and you can drag and drop them into your preferred sequence. There's no right or wrong to it. And you simply sort it into your sequence, and then put in your contact information, and our system will send you a bank code personality report all about you. Now, once you do that, it takes you less than 90 seconds to do. It's not a long form assessment. It doesn't take you 20 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. It takes you less than 90 seconds. Sort those 4 cards, and you'll receive the bank code report. The bank code report is going to tell you all about you. There's going to be some cool insights, and probably one of the most fascinating comments and feedbacks that we get from our clients is how accurate it was in less than 90 seconds. So imagine if you had access to understanding a human being at that level in less than 90 seconds, and typically 30 seconds or so. Imagine how you could engage with them and create incredible outcomes together with them by being able to use emotional intelligence, which is understanding their code, and then having the respect to communicate to them in their code sequence. That's what this ultimately is. And ideally, they learn your reciprocal code and they can feed it back to you in your code, right? That's emotional intelligence, two-way street, which is why we train this to organizations. We train this to sales teams and so forth. So I'm going to just put in the chat box, I kind of pre-typed this so I didn't have to spend my time. The link to crack your code is right here. Okay, crackmycode.com/Cheri. That's my personal private one. That will allow you to take our online assessment for free and get the report. Now, when you come to a couple steps, well, before I skip, step 2 is if you want a digital copy of my book for free, I also have that as a gift. So if you'd like to actually read this book, Why They Buy, you can order it on Amazon, of course. But if you want the free digital copy of this, once you crack your code, the landing page is going to say, hey, here's how bank applies in these different ways. You can watch a short little video, and then you can claim the digital copy of this book. And we even have the ability, sometimes people want to play around with our AI models. I'm going to show you how to do that in the class. You can actually activate a trial of our AI for 14 days. And you can begin doing some assessments and analyzing AI and LinkedIn profiles and kind of figuring out how this works if you want to experiment around with it. Um, I'm going to do the workshop in April and a workshop in May. They're both going to be a little bit different, but we're going to roll up our sleeves. The goal would be to teach you the framework of BANK and to give you the so what, now what questions. Like, okay, we've identified, here's how to identify. There's 4 different ways to crack someone's code. I'm going to teach you those 4 different ways. And then here's what to do with the code, whether you're trying to sell to them, whether you're trying to hire them, whether you're trying to lead and manage them. How do you engage with them differently based on those different code sequences? And we're going to go through that in workshop format. So, Paul, let me just thank you personally for inviting me to come do this special little session. I'd love to get your guys' feedback in the chat box on a scale of 1 to 10. How much did you like learning about this? I'm curious, being a fellow Orange County business here next to you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to have you ask them in the chat as well. So Paul, back over to you.
So I'm going to ask a question here. When we show up to the event in April,
Yes.
the 23rd, um, do you recommend then if we have this opportunity to play with the AI, should we be bringing our laptops? Are we able to do this on our mobiles?
Yeah, I would definitely, like, if we want to workshop style it, then bring your computers. The AI models work on the computer, not on the mobile yet.
Okay.
So bring your computers. In a perfect world, activate the trial of the AI. It's $1 for 14 days. It's on for our company. It is a subscription model. Full disclosure, our clients pay $99 a month for the AI models or $29 a month for all the assessment models. But you can experiment around for 14 days. You can activate it when you come to the workshop, whatever. And I'll show you how to use it and you'll be blown away by it. Like, it's mind blowing where AI has come. And our AI got us written up in Forbes. It got us invited to the United Nations AI conference. I mean, it's pretty powerful because it understands, it doesn't just create content for you. It actually understands how to communicate to another human in a way that that person wants to be communicated with, right? So the match.
Nice. One of the questions that I had in my head here that a note that I wrote down, and it's not more of a question, but a thought that comes from this conversation that you had. You know, you approach this with sales as a numbers game. Sales is a numbers game. That's the thing, sort of thing that we taught, and
Yeah.
that, of course, works really well when we are going out and talking to a whole bunch of different people, right? You've got thousands of companies out there that we might want to talk to, so there's your numbers game right there. We don't necessarily have that luxury inside L&D. Our numbers game is no, no, no. You're going to be talking to that VP of L&D, or you're going to be talking to that director of operations, and you're going to be going back to that person on a repeated basis to say, look, this is how we should probably, consider this option. So the idea behind the bank code then is removing that need for numbers when you don't have the luxury of numbers. Is
That's
that a
right.
fair assessment?
Yeah, because what it's going to do is it's going to help you by identifying their bank code. Again, let's say it's the VP of L&D. How do you influence that person in a way that where they green light your project, where they green light the budget, where they green light the permissions that you need in order to move that deal forward? That is a buying decision, a buy-in decision. It requires a yes answer versus a no or a stall. So in the workshops, I'm going to layer on the meat of how do you communicate differently based on that code sequence? What are the triggers that move them to yes? What are the tripwires that move them to no? And those are some of your most important relationships. It's not just seeing new customers and churning and burning. It's like you might be dealing with just a handful of people. Don't you want ultimate optimization and performance out of them? Versus stagnation and objections, and that costs an organization a lot of money. So this gets the win much faster.
Excellent. So I'm going to toss this out here then. I'm going to share my screen now really quick because we like to wrap up our sessions by asking a few questions for the group here. Um, so um, I want you to share your ideas here. How can the sites offered by the bank code help L&D professionals close the gap between top and average performers, gain influence with stakeholders or C-suite leaders, or better connect with clients, both internal and external. If you want to throw a few ideas in the chat, that would be a great and wonderful thing. I'll just toss out there, if you want to throw ideas in the chat about what you all think my bank code is, feel free to do that as well. Um, I, uh, I think Cheri, she kind of I took the bank code assessment before I first met with Cheri just to kind of get a sense of what was going on. And when I reported to her what my code was, she's like, "Yeah, I knew that. I figured that." So we'll see how good the rest of y'all are. Um, red. Kim thinks I'm a red. Kim thinks I'm action. I fooled Kim. Excellent. So we'll find out what my bank code is. I will reveal that at our April learning event, just as another incentive for y'all to come through here with that. So here we are, crack the code, understanding clients to deliver results. That is April. You'll be able to go ahead and learn about your own code before then, but bring that information into the April event so that you can go ahead and start interacting with other people and learn about their codes as well through that conversation. And then by all means, May. Denise, I do believe we're saying that if you enroll for both the April and May event at the same time, the May workshop as well as the April event at the same time, you get a discount on the May workshop, I believe. Uh, can you confirm that?
That's new to me, but
We shall make it so.
we can do that.
We shall make it so. Let's see. So if we look at the chat here, great presentation, love the visuals, very useful for independent consultant trying to close clients. Absolutely my thought on that, Andrea. Let's see here. I can see huge potential relating to SME. Oh, SMEs, absolutely. As projects are being scoped, right? Being able to go ahead and actually interact with them, especially those SMEs who are like hesitant to work with you because, why are you, what do you know? Why are you doing this? That's absolutely a brilliant point there, Andrew. Excellent. Um, Bank code will help me tailor my approach with stakeholders and executives. Yes. Okay, so with some good thoughts in here. All right. Bunch of nines here. Cheri's a bunch of nines for you on this one. So thank you so much for your insights. Thank you, everything. We are wrapping this up. If you've got any other further comments or questions, I'm able to hang on for a little bit. I know, Cheri, you've got a busy day. So we'll see you on April 23rd.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Very nice to meet you.